Now, when you first met this man way back in the day, within the first few weeks or months of dating, you found something about this guy that you liked. There were certain qualities that he had that were attractive to you. For example, a lot of men with Asperger's seem to really see women for who they are, and they don't get drawn into the cultural limitations that women must fit a certain mold. Another appealing factor for women might be the fact that her Asperger's man wasn't the macho type and didn't want to spend a lot of time with his buddies at the football game or the basketball game or going to the bar and drinking alcohol. Also, I've had many women describe to me their Asperger's man resembled their father. So it's possible that your father had Asperger's, and having a parent with the signs of Asperger's may have contributed to your choice of a partner as an adult. And also, many neurotypical women describe their first impressions of their Asperger's man as being kind, attentive, and socially or emotionally immature, kind of like the silent, handsome stranger. So those are just some examples. I mean, I could go on with example after example, and you probably have some of your own examples that I didn't even mention. But for whatever reason, this Asperger's guy, even if you didn't know he had Asperger's at the time, had some characteristics that you really liked. And regardless of whether or not you knew he had Asperger's at the time, you had certain expectations. As with any relationship, you come into the relationship with certain expectations. Then what happens most often, after a few years roll by, the neurotypical wife comes to the conclusion that the expectations that she had going into this relationship are not being met. A little red flag pops up in her head, and she starts to question the relationship. She starts to wonder if her Asperger's man even loves her, or does he even care about the relationship? And she begins to grieve the loss of the relationship that she had hoped she would have. And here are some of the things that she may have experienced as she went through this grieving process. Oftentimes, the first thing that she experiences is denial. In other words, she tries to convince herself that the relationship problems are not as bad as they appear. She has thoughts like, maybe there's still a chance that he will come around. Maybe someday soon he'll get it. Maybe he'll start working on the relationship soon. Maybe there's certain things that I can do to get him to be more invested in the relationship. So, in a sense, she's really in denial that her husband is just not on the same page with her. The next thing she often experiences is anger. She feels hurt by the husband's seemingly lack of interest in the relationship. She may say things to herself like, what did I do to deserve a man like this? How come I have to be the only one working on the relationship? And so on. So she's angry. The next thing she may experience in this grieving process is bargaining. She may try her best to come up with a solution, but with little or no success. Maybe if I just nag him more, he'll come around. Maybe if we go to marriage counseling, he'll get it. Maybe if I'm just nicer. There must be something that I'm doing wrong. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this position. The next step that she often comes to is depression. She's tried everything, nothing seems to work. She's feeling helpless, hopeless. She may even become angry with herself. But the bottom line is she feels like it doesn't matter what I do, I can't pull this relationship together. I can't get it to the point where I want it to be. And this is where resentment sets in. And this is also the point at which most of these neurotypical wives download the Living with an Asperger's Partner ebook or come to these workshops. Now, at this point in the grieving process, we're really at a crossroads, because usually there's only one of two things that happen next. We've talked about denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and resentment. The last step is one of two things. She either comes to the acceptance that the relationship is never going to work and she bails out, or she comes to the acceptance that her man is just not going to change and she's just going to have to deal with it. In other words, she is in acceptance that she's going to be living with the man for the rest of her life, and it's never going to be the type of relationship that she originally wanted. Now, I want to throw a qualifier in at this point. I do understand that not everybody's situation is the same. And I am speaking in generalities, and we'll be doing so throughout this workshop. So, the grief cycle that we just looked at, some wives go through it, some don't. And the ones that do go through it may go through it differently. So I understand that I'm speaking in generalities. This business of grieving the loss of the relationship that you hoped you would have had will resonate strongly with some, moderately with others, and loosely with the rest of you. Now I want to throw in one other important qualifier, and that is, it doesn't have to end like this. What a depressing scenario. I understand that. But that's why we're here. We're trying to avoid getting to the point where, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to settle for a miserable relationship, or I guess I'm just going to have to get divorced, or I'm stuck in this depression, or I'm stuck in this anger and resentment. We're trying to avoid that. So, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, what we can do to avoid getting to these points.